Hello, just wanted to do another update for my game, see the progress so far. Let's just get right into it. So the player has a box collider that is not a trigger. This is what you would consider to be his push box. This is so that the player cannot pass through another player. I have this enemy here that's just a cube. He also has a box collider that is a push box, so that the two players can't go through each other. Then they have separate colliders, which is called the hurtbox, and this collider is generally the same size as the push box. It's actually a trigger, so it doesn't push through things. I actually think I haven't implemented the hurtbox for the player yet, but I did on the cube. But this one is on a different layer, so it only interacts with things on this layer that I call hitboxes and hurtboxes. I'll probably rename it. So then go to the player. He has this box here, which is called hitbox, and this is on the same layer called hitboxes and hurtboxes, and it is a trigger as well. So these can pass through each other and cause certain on-trigger type of things to happen. And anyways, the good thing about this is that I could do things like in standing with the hitbox. Like here's his standing animation. You can see him kind of moving a little bit. I make it so that during standing his hitbox is disabled, so you can see it's grayed out. But for instance, if you go to another attack or something, like if you go to standing medium, you can hit play. You'll see him do his whole standing medium type of effect, and you could see down here the hitbox is turned off, and then as you cycle through his startup, it's not threatening yet, not threatening yet, and then boom, it suddenly is in its threatening part. This is called like a king frame. It's like if I were to tell you picture, Ryu's crouching medium kick, you would picture it as the king frame, which is him crouching and putting his foot way forward. That's like the identifiable thing. And then these are the active frames. So now the hitbox becomes active for just a couple of frames while the attack is threatening, and then suddenly it's not threatening anymore, and so it becomes inactive. So now you are in recovery frames where the attack is no longer active. It is just in recovery, and he's got to do his full recovery back to his original position. So I got this kind of thing to work, and then just to demonstrate, I do not have like health yet or damage or anything like that, but what I do have is down here in the console, when you hit the opponent with one of the attacks, it does like a trigger enter like little debug log, just so you know that hey, it is working. So there you go, now you know it works. Still needs a little bit of work making some nicer animations and all that, but at least functionally you can see that the hitbox is only interacting with the hurtbox during the active frames because of how I've made this during the animation part, or how I've made it in the animation section of this. Just to go into a couple other things, I now in my like assets folder I made a whole notes thing. This is just notes to myself about here's how you should scale some things in the game. Part of this is like for myself so that I can be consistent within my own project. The other thing would be if somebody were to ever join in on this project, we could just have like a shared notes page that anyone could read. Here I've written animation notes of how to actually create animations for this. Like for instance, starting at frame 0 and then creating your animation from that, and you should set frame -1 as the standing position or the crouching position and so on. That way it will blend to where the frame 0 is already part of the startup. It's a little hard to explain It's basically like, if you were to look at here, like crouching, I don't know, light punch or something, -1 frame, like I'm on frame 0 right now, frame -1 would be crouching. Frame 0, he's already in his startup. And then he goes through and he hits, right? So that's sort of that animation. And so these are just notes to make sure that I am doing this properly. And then I have some notes on how the different layers are supposed to work. This is a big work in progress. I haven't really cracked open layers too much other than just that one simple thing. Here I made a bunch of frame data, which is like, here's how long the startup of each attack should be. Here's how long the active frames, how long should the attack actually be threatening. This is how long does it take to wind up before it becomes threatening. Then it's threatening for the active frames. Then it is no longer threatening for the recovery frames. This is how long it takes before you can regain control of your character. Here I put like the total frames of the whole animation, and then here's what the final frame is. This final frame is just important because when you bring in some animations from Blender, it's really good to be able to go through. Like for instance, jump does not end on frame 197. It actually ends on frame 10. So here you would come in and like, okay, this is wrong, let me just fix that. There you go, hit apply, it's good. You know, that's just to keep everything in order. Also, I'll eventually need this whole thing to be able to keep like balance over the game, but obviously balance is very, very, very far off. Frame advantage is just, you know, when you hit the opponent, how long are they in block stun? You can figure it out based on the active frame and the recovery frame and that sort of thing. Haven't done anything with block stun or hit stun yet, but this type of thing is really important. A lot of this frame data I got from places like Dustloop, which just has a lot of ArcSys games like BlazBlue and Persona, Guilty Gear, Dragon Ball Fighters. They have a lot of frame data there. Some of these things, like Standing Medium, I think is actually Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Magneto, Standing Heavy. I think this is the frame data for it. But anyways, just wanted some starting frame data just to mess with and get an idea for. Also helped, you know, having this data, because then when I go into the animation here and I want to start adding a hitbox, I can actually tell like when is the attack supposed to be threatened, because this doesn't look super different, but that's actually the frame that it's supposed to be threatening. It's a 5-frame startup, so or 4-frame startup, so that's why that is like that. But anyways, another thing I did was I go into the Animator, which this is now crazy, so probably need to make this a lot neater. Right now it works. It's only ever going to have like 2 characters, so I don't know if this is actually fine. Chances are what you should probably do, because I'm not doing animation blending, is maybe treat it more like, you know, just calling upon an animation and then using like the states of the different animations to have stuff happen, rather than having all these complicated transitions. They are pretty clean transitions though, and they have generally worked fine. Some things that I have here is like if you're in standing, you can go to any standing attack. And then here, if you're in like light kick, you can chain to any of these other attack buttons, but only based on a hierarchy. So for instance, light punch cannot go backwards to light kick, but light kick can go forwards to light punch, or to medium, or to heavy. Medium cannot go backwards to light punch or light kick. It can only move forwards up the hierarchy to heavy. So I just kind of have this hierarchy system where you can almost think of it as like 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can go from 1, 2, 3, 4, but you can't do like 3, 2, 4 or 3, 2, 1, 4. So it's always like you can increment up the chain. And it even is true amongst like crouching. Like you can go standing light kick to crouching light punch to crouching medium. But from crouching medium, you can only go to one of the heavies. So try to keep the system like hierarchy. Like lights can go to mediums, can go to heavy, but not backwards. And it doesn't matter whether it's a standing light going to a crouching medium or a standing medium, as long as it goes through the hierarchy. There may be characters in the future that break this kind of rule. Another thing about them that I'm actually pretty happy about is that when that on-trigger enter happens, it actually sets this parameter of hitconfirm to true. And the nice thing about that is that if you look at this, if you are in standing and you press, let's say, standing light kick, you do the transition of standing light kick immediately. So you immediately interrupt your standing pose to go straight into light kick, and then light kick starts playing and starts happening. If you miss your opponent, then forced transition will become true, and forced transition will put you back at standing, but it has the exit time, so it will not occur until after the light kick has fully played its animation, which means that if you miss with your light kick, it will have to play out the entire light kick, leaving you able to be punished. The one difference is that if light kick were to hit, then hitconfirm would become true, and because hitconfirm is true, you're now allowed to go into one of these other buttons, like light punch. Hitconfirm is true, light punch is true, then you can transition into light punch. So as long as your light kick or any of your buttons are spaced properly and actually connect with your opponent, then you can automatically chain into your next hit. And as soon as you chain to your next hit, hitconfirm will deactivate, and so the next hit has to connect in order to reactivate the hitconfirm. So your chain actually has to be true, like truly hitting the opponent the whole way through. So I like this system a lot because this is how you make it so when players start mashing buttons full screen, they can get punished because they're whiffing attacks, and how players who have really good spacing, who are making sure that their buttons are at appropriate distances to hit their opponent, they can chain through their attacks and be rewarded for that. So I really like that system a lot. Again, the animations are a little bit clunky. I kind of threw them together, but I'll just show really quick some of the options here. Like here, I'm just going to go straight through the hierarchy. You can see the bar as it fills up, and then you can see the hit confirms over here. So here you can chain through it. Another thing is, as soon as it hit confirms, you're allowed to combo straight in, so you don't have to link them. You actually get like a proper chain, but it will not chain until after it hit confirms. And again, if I'm here and I mash through these buttons, because I'm whiffing, I can't, this button doesn't come out. You know, see, it had to completely wait, so can't cancel it. But here, I can cancel. Some other things is I made like crouching buttons. They behave the same way. So you can do a whole bunch of stuff like that. And you can go like, you know, through all kinds of buttons. And I made it so that like crouching heavy is jump cancelable, and crouching heavy will be like an air combo launcher. So you like hit with that and then you jump. So as long as it connects, you can jump cancel it. But again, if it doesn't connect, you cannot jump cancel. So have to make sure you hit your opponent or you're left wide open. And then speaking of jumping, if I go back to my scene, and let me just kind of cheat here and bring this guy up just a little bit. That way he's airborne. And I'll clear these. I have jumping attacks as well. Let's jump light kick, jump light punch, that's medium, jump heavy, and then I have a jump forward heavy. It's a little hard to tell the difference, but that one angles down. That's like going to be a hard knockdown. This will be more like a wall bounce, and this also can chain. So there he does like a little combo. And I need to make the air buttons faster, I think, in order to be able to do like really nice combos. And then just for one last thing, I created a separate layer, which is actually creating these joystick input. And it's basically like, this is like a neutral state, and then if down becomes true, or crouching, you move to this state. And then if forward becomes true, you move to this state. And when you enter this state, the parameter of quarter circle forward, which is kind of like a fireball input, that becomes true. And when that is true, if you were to push like light kick, for instance, let me go to standing. If you were to push light kick and quarter circle forward is false, you would have light kick happen. But if you were in standing and you were to push light kick and quarter circle forward were true, you would go to this special move. And again, it works. You can chain from these different hits, like standing medium can go to lay on hands, as long as quarter circle forward is true, as long as you hit confirm and your spacing is proper, as long as you hit light punch, then you can transfer to this other special move. So you can special cancel things. So I do have this for that, and then this here is just a way that it will time out. Like, for instance, if you are in neutral and you push down, you come here. Well, if you push backwards, it'll cancel and bring you back. If you are in this state for too long, and this state is very, very, very short, you could kind of think of it as like an input buffer. It's a very short state. After that, it will force transition you back. And then if you push up, then again, it will cancel your state back to this. And similar thing here, if you reach here and you're in this for too long, force transition will happen. That way it doesn't like hold on to a quarter circle forward input for too long. And then again, you can cancel. If you did a quarter circle forward, you could push back and it would cancel it, or if you push jump, it would cancel it. It's just one of those things where it's like, if you were to ever play Street Fighter and you input like forward and you start walking forward, and then you stop and do a quarter circle forward to throw a fireball, suddenly your character will get like a dragon punch input instead and do this big ol' uppercut. And the way you can fix that is, like, if you're walking forward, you can actually stop and push backwards and then quarter circle forward, and it will like clear the input so that you don't accidentally get like a DP motion or a Shoryuken motion. So just to demonstrate, this is not super great yet. It needs some tweaking. I think I probably need a different way of doing it, but just to show, like, you know, if you push medium, quarter circle forward is not true, so therefore that comes out. But if you do a quarter circle forward input and then push medium, then you get Holy Bolt. Just imagine that a cool Holy Bolt's coming out of his hand. So there you go, there's Lay on Hands. He's supposed to heal himself and his friends. That's Change Aura. It's supposed to just cycle through his aura. And then here's like a counter-attack ability. Again, none of these abilities actually deal damage. The cube does not have any health. There's no hits done, there's no blocks done. But that's an update for how far we are on this project. That's what I've gotten done so far. A lot of this needs to be cleaned up, but right now I'm just happy to be implementing things and trying stuff out and learning more. Here's generally what my animation tree would eventually look like. It's kind of crazy. There's probably a little bit more to it. Like, for instance, Ground block stun should actually be standing block stun, crouching block stun, standing hit stun, crouching hit stun, that sort of thing. I do have some other animations that I've made, like here's a block stun animation. This is while he's airborne. It doesn't actually animate. I just made it long and it loops. That way this animation is really determined by how much are you put into block stun for. And so this is just what he looks like while blocking. I got a couple of other animations as well that I haven't shown so far. Like here is like a super ability. He's supposed to like call lightning from the sky. And then here's this devotion one. He's supposed to basically like receive a bunch of power from God with like God rays or something. And let's see, I think I have a backwards dash that looks not great, but with a little bit of like a whoosh effect, it might look kind of cool. Like if you were wave dashing really quick, it might look alright. And then here's a forward dash, which again doesn't look super great, but I think that one's probably just a little bit too long. Maybe cut it down like 5 frames. But yep, that's what I have so far. And till next time.